toast and drinking black, black coffee. Burnt toast and drinking black, black coffee. Burnt toast and drinking black, black coffee. Yeah, that's all she left for me. When I came home so late last
And most topical piece of news at the moment is that the UK government has extended the current social distancing and lockdown period by another 3 weeks. Really, I think people are possibly looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, but we're in dangerous times. It's literally a matter of life and death. So
yeah, definitely. I think people were expecting a little bit of light. I don't think anyone expected for the lockdown to disappear and go back to normal straight away. But I think we were looking for a little bit of hope, and so 3 more weeks. So we're now sort of well into the tunnel, and the door is shut behind us, and we can't see the light at the front, but we've got to keep moving forward.
We've got to keep moving forward. So I was sort of reflecting on this over the last couple of days in terms of how this extended period is likely to impact people in terms of their behaviour, because I think in a really, really good way, we've seen people come together to produce some kind of collective action by raising money, supporting the NHS. There's the weekly applause that's been happening across communities, people volunteering to work within their communities and society. And I wonder whether that will continue, or whether people will want to kind of focus on themselves as individuals, because as a society we're having to essentially just bow down to what our leaders, our government is telling us to do, because it is literally a life and death scenario. And I think it'll be interesting to look at sort of human behaviour around what isolation might look like.
Yeah, I think human behaviour follows a certain pattern, doesn't it? I think there's an American scholar called Brueggemann who talked about going through what he described as orientation, disorientation, and then reorientation. And I think if you look back on the last 3 weeks, I can see certain times where I was orientated, disorientated, and then you move into that reorientation. And I think perhaps the danger here, of course, it's going to knock some people into disorientation again.
Yeah.
Social distancing. I think social distancing that's happening, it will carry on, but I think we've seen an emotional nearing coming together, and I just hope that emotional distancing doesn't occur.
Yeah,
because that wouldn't be good.
No, that's an important point. And I think, thank goodness for technology, really, because it obviously clearly takes place in place of kind of face-to-face and human-to-human contact. But I mean, this disorientation point that you make, one of the other things that I was reading recently was some of the work that the philosopher Hannah Arendt did in her time. And I was thinking about sort of applying that to, the current situation. And, she talks about, people creating collective action. We've seen that over the last few weeks. But there's also the concept of isolation, which we have in the sense of being physically isolated. But from an emotional perspective, like you mentioned, there's also the aspect of solitude. Solitude is a very different idea that no one's really spoken about. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, because I think that over the last few weeks, a lot of people that obviously haven't been furloughed or haven't been made redundant are lucky enough to carry on working. They're working from home, but they're absolutely inundated with Zoom calls and social media, and I'm wondering whether people become quite tired of that and actually want to kind of switch off from that, kind of virtual connectedness, and go into some form of kind of solitude to sort of reflect on their own being, and kind of listen to their own monologue, their internal dialogue. And that's not necessarily loneliness either. That's not isolation. I think there's an opportunity for people to see that. But it will be interesting to see how society takes the next 3 weeks. And translating that into responses that organizations have. I mean, my personal view is they just need to remain flexible and listen to how what their employees are saying, how they're reacting, and this is going to become an ever increasing topic for the HR function, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Listening to employees, not necessarily the traditional way of engagement surveys, but I think there's a real need for leaders to actually to gain that art of listening. I think listening is so important. We're obviously doing everything over Zoom and team meetings, and okay, we can see each other, but you do miss a lot through body language and just those small signals. So I think that's why it's important when leaders and team members with their own colleagues speak to each other. It's important to listen and to give that time.
Yeah. And part of that listening is, I think, to improve your listening, I think you can improve your own skills of empathy. And empathy is becoming an incredibly important topic, not just at a kind of personal one-to-one level, but at a wider kind of organizational business level. And I think when organizations are trying to speak to their customers through their employees, and whilst we all want to drive forward with progress, we all have to remember that people in other organizations that we're trying to speak to, they're human beings at the end of the day. They've got the same problems, the financial worries, the sickness, kids working from, being schooled from home, all of those, sort of same issues. So empathy, I think, is an important skill for all of us to develop.
Yeah, I noticed one of our group members had liked a post on LinkedIn, and it was basically saying that everyone is going through the same thing. Customers, suppliers, they've all got employees. We're all in this together, and the only way to come through it is to have real collaboration, not just surface level. Oh yes, I'd like to collaborate with you. We really need to help each other through this, through true real collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think that starts at the very bottom level, the base level of people relating to people.
Yeah.
Collaborating, helping. If this week every contact that you had with another individual, you decided that in that contact you wanted to see how you could empathize and how you could help them deal with what we're all going through. That'd be an interesting week, wouldn't it? Instead of thinking, oh, I'm on my own here, everything's me-centered. If we could just look the other way and just look outwards and see if we can help somebody else.
And I think that's a really interesting point about kind of collaboration and thinking about others, because that essentially is the essence of the midweek meetup that we've created for HR professionals, and the online LinkedIn group HR Coffee Diaries. So I'm really excited about the next few weeks, see how people and society react to the extended 3 weeks. And as always, great collaborating with you, Gary.
Nice one, as ever. Straight back at you.
Absolutely. And have a great Friday, and no doubt we'll speak soon.
Yeah, and thank you for not mentioning the haircut.
Nothing was mentioned. Okay, Gary, take care.
Bye.
Burnt toast and drinking black, black coffee. Burnt toast and drinking black, black coffee. Burnt toast and drinking black, black coffee.